So, mate, it's been roughly a week since then, but we have just seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yes, we have.
Do you wanna kick off your thoughts? Because
I'll kick off with a comment. It's the first movie I've seen in cinema that has made me cry. A tear has not left my eye in cinema before. I've definitely seen films that have made me cry, but at home, at cinema, I've never cried, and I couldn't help myself at a very particular scene, which was very odd because it wasn't anything sad was happening at that point, but I knew something sad was going to happen from that point, and I was like, "Oh no!" I just started crying. It was,
honestly,
what a film!
if you told me, if you told me you'd cry at a Marvel movie, I would just shrug and go, "Yeah, right." Because honestly, Marvel, for a time, it was the best, but these last bunch of movies, the ones that I have actually gone to see in cinemas, because they were getting so bad and so frustrating for me, I just decided to watch them when they came out on TV.
Yeah.
And even then, it was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't waste my time in the cinema because they weren't worth it. They were terrible. If you told me you would cry if you were to cry at a movie, I would feel like
a recent Marvel film,
yeah,
as well, because we definitely haven't gotten anything like majorly good from Marvel in a while.
The last good film works that I saw from Marvel that didn't have anything wrong with them for the most part, but for the majority, a worthwhile experience in the cinema and something that I actually saw twice was Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up. Can I just ask you a question? What would you rate this film from all the other Marvel films you've seen? Is it your favourite or is it in your top?
I'd say it's within the top. I'd say, probably jumping the gun here, but I would, in terms of giving it a rank, I would probably say an 8.5 or 9.
Okay.
Because I think it really this film hits all the beats that you want from a film, especially from a Marvel film. Because again,
especially from a Guardians film, it was a perfect Guardians film.
Yeah,
it really captured exactly what Guardians is. The problem with the series of films we had, is the first one was a different character. The second one was boring as hell. Third one went off the rails, but in a kind of good way. We kind of needed it at that point in the Marvel world for Ragnarok, where it was just everything was super serious. So we needed that little bit of comic relief, and I really appreciated that break. But then they went over the top with Love and Thunder.
Yeah, I still stand by.
Off the rails. But Guardians, consistently, every single one has been action-packed, funny, but not over the top, like stupid funny.
Kind of, because I going back to what
it does have its moments always, but it felt Guardians-y. It didn't 4 just felt like it was trying to be something else.
Yeah, with Thor, I generally walked out of Love and Thunder looking at you, and I literally turned to you and said, I wasted my time with this movie.
Yeah, you were not happy. I quite enjoyed it because it was just funny and it was entertaining, and I didn't go into it expecting much, to be honest. I was I was happy with where Ragnarok left us, with actual a decent film in my eyes. Anyway, I know you think Ragnarok is not so great.
I would say I enjoy it. I think actually, because with the Thor films in general, they were never my top favorite Marvel films. I liked the character, but they weren't films I would say, oh, you have to check out the Thor movies. Ragnarok, I thought, was a nice change up, and I do appreciate it that they were a bit more interesting when they were funny, because Taika Waititi had his own brand of humor that worked for the movie.
Yeah.
But what I think also made it work was the fact that it knew when to take itself seriously.
Yeah, it definitely didn't.
Yeah, and they
much of that.
Yeah, they clearly lost their way.
The beginning of Love and Thunder was very serious and sad, and then it just kind of turned into a massive joke after that. Every scene after that, they were like, no, we need it funnier. The first scene was tragic, but yeah. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the 4 films.
Yeah.
What I was getting to was, for my top Marvel films, I think my top 3 would be, first, Spider-Man: No Way Home. That was everything I've ever wanted out of a Marvel film. Second off, being that new Guardians film, Volume 3. I love it so much. And then Guardians 1 being my third favourite. So Guardians is a special place in my heart. I really like the Guardians series. I love those films. Something about them. There's so much character. They're such fun films with having enough like serious action in it for me. And then after that, it goes most of the Iron Man films, and then onto all the Avengers films, and that's pretty much my list.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, back to what you said with Guardians. I feel like their films have been consistently entertaining. I feel like the second one was a bit trying to be a bit too jokey.
Yeah,
it was pretty much at that point where Marvel were getting way too comfortable with, I have a joke in every scene. For the most part, it worked because I mean, people could correct me if I'm wrong, but I generally do think that the first Guardians film set the template for Marvel to have like a joke in almost like every scene or with every character.
Yeah,
And that just got turned up to 11 after Endgame. So that's what I feel like was holding the MCU back going forward, because it was being less difficult to tell a serious story without, there has to be a joke in there, a bit of levity. I actually think that's why the recent Ant-Man failed in that regard. But with Guardians, the second one, I still think it was good because it knew when to still take itself seriously and have moments for the characters.
Oh, it definitely had some scenes.
Yeah. And with this film, it still has its humour. It's typical, but really well done MCU humour.
It seems the humour was perfectly balanced with the amount of darkness in it. Like the creator, what was his name? The creator, was it?
James Gunn. He was the writer and the director. So this is basically his baby, and it's. Again, you look at all the other Marvel films, they've been tampered with, or the division's just not been that clear, or from the get-go it's just not been good. This is clearly James Gunn's vision, and it shows through consistency, through the appreciation for the characters and the world, and it's so satisfying. I was genuinely so satisfied watching this movie and leaving and thinking, I liked this.
Yeah. Was he the actor that played the creator?
The villain of the movie was called the High Evolutionary.
The High Evolutionary, right, okay.
Yeah, James Gunn, for a bit of trivia here, if anyone doesn't know, James Gunn doesn't act in the movie at all. He's not an actor's man. But his brother, who's Kraglin in the movie, he's also like the motion capture for Rocket.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so in a way, there is a gun in this movie.
There's lots of guns in this film. Firing all the time. There were a couple things with the film that lessens it for me.
Okay, really?
Upon reflection. When I walked out of the cinema, I was thoroughly impressed. Upon reflection, there's a couple parts where I was a bit like, yeah, that wasn't great. Like, the one that pops straight to mind, Groot talking.
Really?
Why?
Yeah, I did read about this. I know it's the source of it is from like Twitter, and I don't have Twitter, but I just saw it in an article for Screen Rant, I think, where they talked about it. Apparently, Gunn confirmed a fan theory explaining that bit, where the reason why we can hear him now is not because
we've been with him for so long we can understand him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I think the way they made Vin Diesel do the voice was wrong.
Really?
It sounded far too much like I heard just Vin Diesel. That's all I heard. I didn't hear Groot. You know, when he says "I am Groot," he puts on a character's voice. When he said "I love you guys," he was saying it as if he was in the Fast and Furious films.
Mm.
And it's like, this is a tree man talking, not Vin Diesel. Try and add a little bit of character to it. It kind of took me out of the film in that moment, which was meant to be a very sentimental film. Sentimental moment. They're all like hugging, embracing each other, being like, this is our final moments together and we're going to split our separate ways. That was, it just took me out of the film, the fact that he spoke like Vin Diesel rather than Groot. I didn't feel like there was much effort or character put into that line. Other than that whole moment building up to it, them embracing, them going their separate ways. Oh, my heart! It like that tugged on my heartstrings.
Yeah, this entire movie
didn't make me cry though. That was not the part that made me cry.
I'm curious now. What is the part that made you cry?
I'll tell you. It's as soon as the walrus was on scene.
Oh no.
No, not even dead. Not even when it died.
Really?
As soon as I saw its face, I started crying because I knew they were going to kill that character off. I knew it. I fucking knew it. Rocket doesn't have any cool animal friends right now, and in current time, he's going to die.
Damn it, they were all so lovely.
As soon as I saw his face, teeth, because I have big teeth. Oh, I love him. No, it honestly made me start crying as soon as I saw his face, the way his eyes were facing the wrong way. And I'm a big animal lover, so the first thing I thought when they were saving all the children is, yeah, forget about them. Get the fucking animals out of there, please. And the way they walked past all the animal enclosures, but Rocket stopped. It just made me love the character more. It just made me love him more.
Yeah. I mean, for me, talking about the Rocket's backstory, he is the emotional core of this movie, and it's so satisfying because we knew for the longest time that we were going to get that origin at some point, but again with Marvel recently, it felt like could they do it good? Because it's just been like so black and white now with whether they're able to do good writing or not, and
they did it good.
yeah, they knocked it out of the park with this.
That's a tragic past if I've ever seen a tragic past for a hero.
Yeah, and I love also that they each had. I mean, they really commit to them being visually terrifying, but like the rabbit. But then you realise, oh, they're very sweet.
Yeah,
and it really just sells you on just their characters with the brief screen time they do have, and it makes you really appreciate Rocket's character more, especially considering how when we were first introduced to him, he was very selfish, very standoffish, only cared about himself and group. And now we're at this point where he has his new family, and we see why he cares about them so much. Why he went to such lengths in Endgame to get them back, because he lost his original family. He's not going to lose this one, and this film, not pays tribute, but it basically pays off his devotion to his family when in this movie, where they do all they can to save him, and that's the kind of character development that is worth watching multiple movies over. Because if you're going to have a cinematic universe and they have to tie into everything, make it matter. Don't do it just because let's put a reference in there. Let's do this, let's do that, and let's hope for more money. No, character is at the end of the day the core of every franchise. Why it works, why we love it, and why we come back.
I think that's also one reason this works much better as a comedy action than 4 did, is because 4 didn't have the consistent characters to bring over, whereas with Guardians, they're a group. They're a funny group. They all get along with each other. We know their histories. We know that like their bond, what they've been through together. So a joke every now and again works. When 4 meets a random person, which is just so happens to be like a screaming goat, it's not very funny.
Mm-hmm.
That is my opinion why it didn't work. But this film did it very, very well. Very well, the way they timed their jokes, and I just thought it was hilarious. I can't believe I cried and laughed so much at one film.
I mean, if I had to add one complaint to the movie, it was, and this is pretty much just a me thing, I was really annoyed that they ended up killing off Lila, because
she's more prominent in the comics.
Yeah,
she's actually alive.
Yeah, she's his love interest in the comics, and I haven't read the comics so I'm not coming from the perspective of a fan who's like, oh, why'd they kill that character off? They had such potential. Really, because for what they did do, I wasn't annoyed at it, because I do understand why they had to do that, and it makes sense for Rocket's narrative. At the same time, though, part of me, because for context here, I actually tried playing the Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale game. I then gave up because I'm not a gamer.
I forgot that was a thing. I've never played it.
It's not bad. The story, at least, is not bad. And so I ended up playing it. Didn't finish it because I couldn't really get into the gameplay or whatever.
It's very story based Telltale games. The point and click adventures.
Yeah, I can't even remember why I stopped playing it. It might have been something to do with the gameplay at the time, but for whatever reason, I didn't finish it. But I ended up watching the cutscenes to finish the story. And for context and a bit of a spoiler, but hey, whatever. You get to there's a MacGuffin they have to find, and it gives them the chance to grant their wish. And at the end, you've got 4 choices, and one of those is bring back Lila for Rocket, who in that canon also dies, and you get to choose that. And in the path that I watched, the character game player, they chose that path for Rocket, and it's so wholesome. And I thought I would like to see Rocket and Lila in live action, just because I would love to see their dynamic. And
Yeah.
from what I do understand in the comics, she's part of his team of like animal companions in their version of the Guardians at some point.
Yeah.
So there's blueprints there.
Is she meant to be part of the future Guardians of the Galaxy?
I guess. I mean, I know she's been in a few of his comics runs for a while.
She's been replaced by a dog. So, which I recently looked up the full story of that, and it's so sad.
Oh yeah.
Don't look up the first. If anyone wants to have a good day, don't look up the first dog that was ever sent into space. Don't do it. It's very sad. It's very, very sad. The pictures alone, that made me tear up.
Yeah, I think they actually do reference that in the movie.
Well, that is the dog. That is meant to be the dog.
I think so. I can't.
No, it is. It literally is. It's called Leica.
Like a
But they changed the name for the thing to not be a direct reference. But it's meant to be the first dog sent by the Russians into space.
Okay.
And then it got in the film. It must have got picked up by someone.
Yeah, they probably just changed the breeds or whatever for copyright reasons, maybe.
Yeah, no, they did. They didn't want to make it like an uncanny thing. They wanted to make their own character.
Yeah.
But it was based off of that dog, the first dog that was sent into space. That's why I brought it up. But yeah, no, don't look up anything about Leica, the dog that was sent into space. If you want to have a good day, or have faith in humanity anymore.
Yeah. So. But yeah, with that, I was mainly just a bit frustrated on that because I wanted to see more of that character, and I feel like that we could have, but I'm not going to complain about that in the grand scheme because I do understand why they did it. I understand what it meant for the story, and as much as I'm not enjoying the multiverse saga right now, there is potential they could bring that character back through the multiverse down the line.
I mean, the multiverse is going to mess up a lot of stuff, for sure. And I'm eager to see the chaos, to be honest. I can't wait to see what ideas are going to come out of Marvel's head, because I feel like they've done every possible thing they can do now. Like, I don't know. I would just like to see what is going to come next from this. Like, are we even going to see the new Guardians on screen? Is that just was that just a thing to be like, Guardians is done now, there you go? Because it said Star-Lord will be back after the end credits. It did not say the Guardians will be back. So Star-Lord's probably going to get his own like adventure series.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, with the multiverse, I feel like I'm glad it wasn't incorporated into this movie. It didn't need it.
Yeah, no, it didn't need it.
This was their story.
It was far chaotic by itself. You know.
Yeah, and the fact that it's just been like not well received in a lot of the areas so far, it just means that this film will be able to stand on its own, and it does. So yeah, with that all that stuff aside with Lila, I love the movie. I feel like every choice. I mean, I've heard some people before the film came out. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, the songs in this one aren't actually memorable." Like, what movie were you watching? Because the songs in this were so perfect. I have to draw attention to the songs "Do You Realise" by Flaming Lips, and "Dog Days Are Over" by Florence and the Machine.
When that came on, wow, what a moment that was! Because the build up for it is perfect for the scene that it was in. Just everyone sitting around, they're about to say goodbyes, and then the build up of the song. It really, I enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, Do You Realise was definitely resonated with me in the trailer because I feel like that was the official song for the movie. But Florence and the Machine song, that song really just that was like the culmination of the entire movie for Rocket, and it was so satisfying. That's a bit where I generally my eyes misted up a bit.
Yeah,
I didn't cry, but I was like.
Yeah, mine got misty at that bit. I didn't. A tear didn't leave the eye though. But yeah, as soon as I saw the walrus, I bawled. I couldn't handle it.
God, this movie. I mean, so yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of what else to say because probably the heart of the movie was Rocket, and it works, and the relationships that everyone else had.
Even though he wasn't in a lot of the film.
Yeah, people might be surprised at that, but I don't think it makes sense.
He was in the film via flashbacks though, quite a lot. Because when he was on his deathbed, it was just like and reanalyzing all of his life and stuff, and that's what we were seeing on screen and learning about his backstory. I think we needed to see that to really get Rocket's character. Now I get why he's an angry little bastard. I love it. I love him. He's my favourite Marvel character.
And with every other character, really, it's their reactions to his fate that really make it so much more enjoyable with their characters. Because everywhere, this film doesn't just glorify Rocket and give him a lot of resolution. Everyone gets their own moment to shine with this film. You've got Drax, who's awesome as always, but then you get to see he gets the resolution of basically being, you're not a destroyer, you're a father. That's where your strengths are, and that's where he ends up. A lot of people thought he was going to die in this movie, and I thought, oh, he probably will die because he's one of the most notable Guardians, but he's also one that, I mean, the actor himself is going places, and Marvel probably don't need everyone to stick around for the long haul. So that it would make sense for him to be killed off. But no, they give him a very wholesome ending that feels right with his character, and I'm like, that works. That's satisfying. That is such a nice way to pay off his story. And even the same with what's the Mantis. Mantis. Again, she could easily be just forgotten because she's introduced in Volume 3, but a lot of people might say the only notable thing about it is that she's like Quill's sister. But she has her little arc in this movie too that pays off a lot of the other stuff that was set up when she was first introduced, and it feels
feels like she's got a lot more character to her. She was actually badass in a lot of the fighting scenes, which I didn't expect. And obviously, she's been with the Guardians for a long time. She's going to learn how to fight. Probably Nebula taught her. Like, that's really cool. I
like also how she's like the voice of the team when it comes to like their emotional trauma. She's like the one who's always trying to keep them like, guys, it's okay. We're all here. Yeah. We're together. We can do this. And again, you need that sometimes in friend groups, and it makes so much sense for the story. And the fact that she also gets to go out and discover herself at the end because she realizes, I love you guys, but I need to find me. It's so lovely. And I love also how they sort of tied into the big monsters from the second movie.
Yeah,
because for a second I thought, oh, they're going to bring them in for an action scene, typical Marvel thing where, oh, I remember that, and it's gone. But no, it's like you're applying creatures that we're familiar with and a character who has the power to like share emotions, like, or feel emotions, like. That makes sense. You're paying it off. Sense. It's a funny joke, but it's also a payoff that makes so much sense for the narrative. And it was funny. It was fun. And even Gamora, I would when it first started and we're introduced to her, and she's like being very mean, very like antagonistic. I thought, okay, is this going to go down the same path with other Marvel characters where they're making all the girls badasses by taking away all their nice qualities to just making them bitches? Like, no, she has her reasons for distrusting the characters, and she has her reasons for like not wanting to be there. And every other character, they give her time, but they also try to stand up and say, "Look, we cared about you. Don't just brush us off. We're just trying to adjust to the fact that you are no longer her, and we kind of want you to be her."
Yeah.
And they could have easily, even going into Star-Lord here, they could have easily made him the buffoon, the guy who just is selfish and he's like pining after her constantly and drunk and mean to everyone.
I'm very glad they only did that at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, everyone was like very understanding with his character, and even he, because he's the leader, when the moment came to take action, he did. And even shows in his character when they're at the compound, that big fleshy compound, and they're trying to get information on Rocket's origins to help him. And there's a scene where he basically tries to woo the secretary to get information through, and then Gamora was like, "Get out of the way!" It's like, "What are you doing?" Like,
I charmed her.
Yeah, they play that off as a joke, which makes sense. But at the same time, later in that same scene, when he tries to convince her again, "Look, I can get through to those guards. Let me do this, please." He tries to play sympathy, and she says, "Yeah, sure." They could have easily just played that as he tries it, doesn't work, and then Gamora shoots everyone. Situation solved, but you've embarrassed the main character. You've just empowered them, the secondary female lead, just because they have that. It's part of their agenda now with Marvel. They have to make all the white males stupid or idiotic or not good, and all the girls, regardless of whatever, they have to be the best as ever. But no, Gamora. Every time Gamora kills someone, they're like, "What are you doing? Don't be a killer.
Yeah.
We're doing a job."
They did address. There was no moment in that Marvel film where I got taken out of it because of an agenda, which was really nice.
And with Star-Lord, they play into the fact that he's smart, he's very tactical, and he's the leader of the fucking team. Of course, he's gonna play on people to try and get what he wants. Like, oh, I was completely fucking with you about that. Me trying to get through to your guards. I just want you to get me into the passcode. It's like,
Yeah.
that is so funny. That is smart thinking for the character, and it's satisfying because
It's quick-witted. It's funny. I like it. I liked that moment where it's just like, and he turns to Kimura like, "See, told you, Ada." And it's like,
Yeah.
great. Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah, no, that's a good way to do like a goofy, buffoon, charming character. That's a good way to do that kind of character.
I fully agree.
Not just make him stupid for the sake of being stupid to make someone else look smarter. That's definitely a bad way to do characters because it ruins one character that has been established throughout films. Just to bring up another character when you could bring either up both of them or you can put down both of them. But if you're sacrificing a character for the sake of bringing up another character, it definitely ruins those characters.
Yeah, no one wins in that regard. In this case, everyone wins because this movie is good. The characters are well handled, and we appreciate that. And us, the audience, will show that appreciation by seeing the movie more.
Yeah, and enjoying it, and not giving it a terrible rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, and I think, wow, in terms of the last few years to talk about the villain, I am so happy we got a villain because there's been a few, but for the majority, a lot of the MCU Phase 4 villains have been either like just in general poorly handled, where you sort of understand the motive, but they're just like they're not interesting, or they try to pull the sympathy card where they're like they're evil, they kill people, they do terrible things, but it's because of that guy, because of this situation. It's like, stop trying to make us sympathize. They're killing people, they're hurting people. That I will never, for the life of me, understand why they tried to make the villain of Falcon and Winter Soldier sympathetic at all. When they people can do their own research on why it's such a stupid idea that people will try to sympathise with the fucking terrorists of that series, or with WandaVision. Where
I kind of get in the early bit of that series why they would sympathise, because there were motives there where it's just like, yeah, this is unjust and glad someone's taking action. But later in the film, it's like they keep killing people and we're still on their side. Why?
And with WandaVision too, where Wanda literally kidnaps an entire town, and yet the resolution to that is they'll never know. She did
kind of turn into a straight up villain, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't change the fact that the show tries to end it on the idea that, she learned a lesson.
I would have preferred if they ended it where they were like, okay, we've got to stop her. How? Good question. And they're like, right, okay, we don't have the facilities to actually stop her, but we're going to try and get destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I would have said. I would rather the story acknowledge that you did a terrible thing here. You have to have consequences for this. And she could have still left, and she could have still gone on to become that villain in Doctor Strange too. But it doesn't change the fact that the world was not taking that approach to it. The writing was not like aiming for her to like be held accountable for it. It was like, oh, you freed the town now. Well, they'll never know what you sacrificed. It's like, what's that saying to the audience? That's just saying to us that the writers were like, we can't end her off as the bad guy, even though she ends up being the bad guy later. It's just like so skewed with the narrative.
It's like they didn't know where they wanted to take the character at that point.
Yeah, and that
it was Agatha all along. No, it wasn't.
And that's sort of permeated with all the other female characters in the MCU too, especially when they're the villains. And so back to the point here with the villain here, he's just a villain. He's a bad guy.
Straight up villain.
Yeah, his whole motive is, I want to make the perfect being for a greater universe or whatever. But
very Nazi. I like it.
Yeah, but it's just so great because, in a way, you can so understand the motive of, I want to create something beautiful, but what he's doing and the fact he's not sympathetic for it at all, it's fresh for me just to see that in a Marvel film. And it's like,
it was pretty brutal. I was really expecting not that much brutality, because what agendas nowadays can shut down like companies. Like if you say the wrong thing on Twitter, you can get cancelled forever. So I thought they would be a bit too scared, because Peter, I thought PETA would have been on their ass for that. I'm sure they are, but do you know what? It's a CGI animal in a film. Piss off! Like it's not.
They're tactful with it because
Yeah.
they don't specifically show you anything graphic, but they if anything they more imply it, and that's what makes it much more effective.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason when you watch the trailers for the movie and they have that one shot of Peter screaming screaming, and for the months people thought who's being tortured in that scene, because that's what we thought was happening. In the actual movie, that's just when they think Rocket's died and they're being very anguished about it, which is equally more heart-wrenching. But what people don't see is much more terrifying, especially when they have the context of this guy's an experimenter. He's been creating races. He doesn't care for their well-being. That leaves a lot for people to put the pieces together themselves, and that's what makes it so efficient. And with the movie itself, they don't glorify it. They make it a point of showing what he's doing is terrible, very unethical, and that's why they have to stop him and they have to save their friend. And it makes so much more sense as opposed to trying anything else just for the sake of we want to send a message or whatever. And with the villain, I just love the fact that he was not only was he an amazing.
We hated him till the end. I'm glad we hated him to the end. There's been too many films with villains in it where it's been like, yeah, he's done some horrible things. He's killed entire planets. But, you know, he did it because of this, so we should feel sorry for him. And now he's going to sacrifice himself to redeem himself right in the final moments. And then that's how he dies. So you get your death and you feel bad for him. So now you feel bad that he's died. Why are you making me feel bad over someone that's killed entire planets? Like, stop doing that, Marvel. Just make up straight up villains, because straight up villains are way better of a dynamic to have.
Yeah. It's just
make some dickheads, make us hate them, and that it creates better acting experiences, which projects better on screen.
There's a time and a place, and when every villain is just the same, it gets boring and repetitive. It's nice to have it changed up, and it was fitting for this movie. And yeah, I think the actor killed it with his performance. I think
he did an amazing job.
You can definitely tell he came from the Shakespearean background, and it worked so well for the story. And I loved the resolution too. Although a part of me was a bit annoyed that they didn't kill him off, because again the film we were rooting for him to be killed by the end by Rocket, but in the end Rocket chose the high ground to be the better person and say, I'm a protector of the galaxy. I'm not a murderer.
They do have that a lot, where it's like, I won't stoop down to your level kind of things. I think the Guardians should have been a bit different. I think they're not so much heroes as they are like super strong mercenaries coming to save the world.
Yeah, I think if the situation called for it, he would have. And I wouldn't have been.
I think he should have, but I wanted to see his head blown up. But, you know, how did he die? How did he die? I've actually forgotten that scene.
He doesn't die, because originally, from when after we saw the film, we were convinced that his fate was left unknown, because we never see his body and the ship blows up, so we don't know if he was on or he got away. But I found this out literally today in preparation when going over my notes. I was doing a bit more research, and there was I think James Gunn confirmed it on Twitter again. But basically, someone's revealed that there's a moment in the film where when you see everyone being brought onto Nowhere, the headquarters of the Guardians, you can just about see Drax among the smoke and debris carrying someone off onto Nowhere, and the person said, "Oh, is this the High Evolutionary? Was he saved by the Guardians?" And Gunn basically responded saying yes or something. Maybe it was a VFX artist or something who confirmed it, or maybe Gunn. I can't remember off the top of my head right now.
He'll just probably be imprisoned then, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the actor also came out with another interview saying that, let's just say this, you'll probably see either an extended cut or a deleted scene later down the line confirming my fate. So that puts into the question the idea that maybe there was a scene where after he was rescued, he's like in prison and Rocket sees him one last time, and that was all.
Sticks the middle finger up, but walks off.
Yeah, that was teasing that he survived, but we might see him again. And
he looks like Red Skull now without his face.
Yeah. But I will say it makes sense, because for a bit more context here, the High Evolutionary is a character who is very prominent in the X-Men comics. He's because I think he works for Mr. Sinister, for a time.
God, what a title! Right.
Yeah, so people who know that character are like, oh, okay. So if this and considering how well this character was received, equally makes more sense to keep him around and not fall down the trap of killing off your villains.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
mean, they are delving into the multiverse. Anything is possible.
Yeah.
Although they would have to change actor if they kill off a villain and go into multiverse, because that's kind of what they do anyway.
Kind of. It depends, I guess.
I guess it depends, yeah, what universe you go into, but oh yeah, that's a whole other tin of worms there. So
yeah, that's another episode for another day. But yeah, I think for the villain, he worked on he ticked all the boxes for me when it came to his villainy, how he was executed, and just really the resolution. And I really appreciated all that. With the characters, I think it was all perfectly resolved and it made sense. I love also that no one died. Because again, this could have been the perfect opportunity to do it, but the fact that Gunn thought, I'm going to end this series not with them dying, but going off for themselves.
I like that.
It's very nice. It's in a way, it's even more heartbreaking because we all love these characters and they all love each other. But at the end of the day, they have to take responsibility for themselves and do what's best for them.
I like that Peter Quill did go see his granddad before it was too late. I did enjoy that. The after credits scene where he was eating cereal and they were just making like really light small talk, and then a big thing saying Star-Lord will return. I did enjoy that moment. That's quite a peaceful, nice moment. Just see him enjoying a bit of cereal with his granddad. Oh.
Yeah, it's such a human moment. It's such a simple moment. And if anything, talking briefly a bit about that little teaser, I mean, again, it's nice to know that they have some of the characters at least have a future, with mainly Rocket and Star-Lord. So, I mean, that's clear of one indication that Marvel still have interest in those characters to move forward with them. With Star-Lord, I mean, I could see them doing a Disney Plus show for him, but again, considering their track record, I kind of hope they don't. Because in a way,
I'm a bit worried about the shows.
Yeah, because
where they're going to go. They need to stop doing major plot points in the shows. I get it. That's one way to get people to watch them, but stop doing them bad if you do that. Yeah. We don't need that. Ruining our bloody characters. Thanks, Marvel.
Yeah.
Thank you for your films and your cinematic universe, but your TV universe sucks ass. You need to do better. Mm-hmm. Do more Daredevil. Just stuff like that. Violent Punisher. Punisher was violent as hell. That was great. It's not technically part of the MCU bit, but kind of.
It is.
Because Daredevil's been confirmed to be in it from Spider-Man, but just more shows like that. Just more violent, beat the crap out of everyone with just more substantial story. Or story that just isn't boring.
Yeah, I have no hope for Daredevil from what I've heard right now.
Right,
and
I do have hope for Loki.
I don't.
Did you not like the first Loki?
I thought it was complete misdirect.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great. I liked the whole how deep they went. Just the scene alone where he opens up the drawer and all the Infinity Stones are in there and they're just useless paper holders. That was so funny. I cracked up. I was like, wow, Loki's done it.
In isolation, that's quite funny. I personally think that was a complete disservice because it basically made everything prior to that pointless now.
But not really, because it's its own thing, you know. If Thanos knew about that place, that would be a whole different story, wouldn't it?
Maybe we could go on about that, but again,
let's not divert. I do derail quite a lot.
It's okay. Another episode for another time. Overall, from what we can say, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Again, this has been a very roundabout review of it because we did not really go into a structure, but
yeah, sorry, we just started rambling, but that's how we do.
Yeah.
Talks. Anyway,
yeah, the main thing to take away from this movie is that it is worth it. It was definitely a solid conclusion to a trilogy. And again, Marvel have been so up and down lately with their products. So this was definitely a worth movie to see, unlike Ant-Man.
If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favour and watch it. As long as you've seen the other two Guardian films. That's pretty much all you need to watch.
Yeah, those are at least the last 2 Avengers movies, just for context for Gamora.
Yeah, to get context on Gamora, but they kind of explain it anyway in the film.
They do, yeah. But yeah, I think primarily it's just the fact that it was just a good movie, and it was so emotionally satisfying in the end. I'm so happy, in a way, that this is the last Marvel film I'll be reviewing for the channel, because, yeah, I'm not going to be seeing the Marvels.
Yeah.
And, yeah, this is the last season after all, so it's nice to end the Marvel discussion points with the reviews on a high note with a good movie.
Yeah,
And
with a good film. We should watch the Marvels, though.
maybe if I'm drunk. But
I just want to see what it's like. It looks interesting.
yeah,
it looks interesting. I'll be down to watch it.
Sorry, I again talk. You said,
I keep derailing you. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, and I actually just realised I've derailed too, because you said we were meant to talk about what we think of the future. We've talked about Star-Lord already, but we didn't even talk about Rocket. So at the end of
We're terrible at this. I'm very sorry, everyone. Feel free to dislike this video. What was that? I meant like and subscribe. More bullshit like this.
So, Rocket. So at the end we have a post-credit scene, and it basically reveals that he's got a new team formed. Adam Warlock's part of it.
Yeah,
God damn, we didn't even mention
We
Adam
didn't
Warlock.
even mention... Okay, no, sorry. Okay, drop everything. We need to talk about Adam Warlock for a sec. Because I'm not going to lie, I'm so sorry. That completely went out of my brain there. But, wow, that was one of the reasons I loved the film so much, was Adam Warlock. God damn it. Yeah, no, what a great character. The funniest laughs I've had was from that character. The way in the interrogation room, where she was just like... deal with him, like, to try and scare some information out of him, and he just vaporizes him. It's so good. He just turns to dust. Well, how else can I show him we mean business more than that? You're not wrong, Adam, but you're very too literal, and I think that's hilarious. It's basically what Drax was at the beginning. It's basically like, that's why I found the character so funny. It was, why would I put my finger on and stroke it on his neck? No, it's a symbol, metaphor for slicing his throat. I would not slice his throat. I would rip his heart out. And it's just that kind of like literal humour was very funny. Very funny. It worked for Adam Warlock. I don't know how they came to the conclusion to get Adam Warlock how he is, because I don't think he's like that in the comics at all, but I haven't delved into the comics for Adam Warlock at all.
I understand some people, especially if they're fans of the comics, might be a bit annoyed with this take on the character, making him basically be a mama's boy.
Yeah, well, for all of about an hour and a half of the film, and then he's no longer has mum.
yeah, I feel like it's definitely a different take on it, and I appreciate it more because not only was it funny, and it made him interesting in a different way, but he had a level of agency, especially after his mother was killed.
He was one of the most brutal attackers I've ever seen in Marvel. The way he just got on top of them and kept punching them. Like, Drax was black and blue, Nebula's face was distorted the first time they fought. Oh my god, it was violent. He was a violent character, and then they kind of didn't really do anything with him for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
It was kind of a shame, like, you did get to see him kind of develop, like, get a little furry animal companion friend, learn a bit more about life, the mum dies. I wish he joined the big fight at the end, but we didn't really see anything of him.
Yeah, I feel like the big thing for him was just like sympathizing in terms of like understanding now people, that these people aren't evil. They're just trying to help the little guy, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a very simplified origin story, if I may say, but it works with the story they were trying to tell. And if anything, it sets him up for a potential strong future with the MCU going forward, especially considering how powerful he is. And there is a template for him in the comics, because
He's very Captain Marvel-esque with his powers.
So there is a lot of potential for him as a character. With this movie, I will understand if people weren't a fan of it, but I personally think it was okay.
Yeah.
And it made sense.
Yeah, I was not enraged by it. Like, although I don't really know about the comics of Adam Warlock, so there was nothing to annoy me about. It was my first observation of Adam Warlock. And I'm not going to try and keep in my head that that is the character of Adam Warlock, because from the sounds of it, it hasn't really done justice. But in the film, it worked very well for that film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they didn't do wrong. Especially they picked the perfect actor for it.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Will Poulter.
Will Poulter. Phenomenal actor. I love him. Every film he's been in is turned into gold.
He's a really good choice. He's a strong actor, so I definitely think there's a good path for him going forward, provided the writing can do him justice.
Yeah. Yeah, but if he's ever in a bad film, I'm not going to lie, it's not because of his acting. It's because of the film.
Mm-hmm.
So he's an incredible actor, and I'd love to see him in more stuff Marvel related as well. I'm glad he's getting bigger and bigger parts.
And talking about that, so back to Rocket's the post-credit scene. So he's now part of the new Guardians team.
He's the leader of the new Guardians team, I think.
Yeah, Rocket is. I am happy with that resolution.
And Super Butch Groot. Super Butch Groot. Oh my god, he's massive now. I love that he's just not turned into the same one he was from the first thing, but he's been through different experiences while he's grown up, so he's jacked.
Yeah, and we thought Swole Groot was the final form.
Mini Swole Groot, like where he was about 7 foot, just a bit taller than everyone else, but he was like really wide, and it was kind of like his teenager face. And then when he turned into like big boy Groot, he's basically the mountain from Game of Thrones. Like.
Yeah, and with that post credit scene, it's a simple. Oh, they're on a new mission now. They're doing what they do best. It's a simple, nice way to end the story off for the movie and for the characters, but also a great tease for the future. So it really now depends what they're going to do with that. So we know for a fact that they're likely going to feature in the next 2 Avengers movies, because they confirmed Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars will be a big event movie like the other ones were.
I'm looking forward to Secret Wars.
Secret Wars, again, I've mentioned this before. I am very unsure about it because of just how Marvel have been going down lately. But again, for all I know, the film could end up being good, but I have no hope for it at the moment. But with the Guardians themselves, I mean, it makes you wonder, will we get Volume 4? I doubt it, because...
No, I don't think so.
Because in my opinion, I actually think if they are going to continue with those characters, the best thing to do would be to make another series and give them a new title. Because we know in the comics that... I'm forgetting who created the team. I actually think it was Cosmo, the dog, who created the team in the comics. Oh. But basically, Cosmo gets a bunch of very powerful heroes to battle a threat in the comics, and they go by the name the Annihilators. So I think that could be a case where we have Rocket's team call themselves the Annihilators, because in a way that would be a bit more fitting, where instead of just taking on the old title from the team, that is their title. They keep that title, but this new team is like, we're going to do our own thing, and we're going to annihilate every threat.
That's cool. That it fits that team as well, because they're a lot more unhinged. This team, new team,
their powers are a lot more deadlier.
yeah, they've definitely got a wider array, not just a guy that stabs really hard and a tree.
Yeah, and take away the.
They still got the tree,
and take away the, all the problems with the films as films. Just in terms of the narrative, going up against someone like Kang and whoever the villain is going to be in Secret Wars, you're going to need some very powerful heroes, and I think that Rocket's team would be like the main ones to bring in at least. So I think the Annihilators would make sense.
Yeah,
and that's just me.
Adam Warlock was a part of the new group, right at the end.
Yeah,
he was. Okay, good. Okay, so there's potential for that character. In that case, because I forgot that he was part of the group at the end, but the fact that he is makes me kind of want a Volume 4. Or at least Annihilators, a show. We'll
never get... I think the only sad thing about this is that we're probably never going to get this exact same experience from them, because Gunn has confirmed he's not doing anything else with Marvel going forward, because his priority is with DC. And I'm happy for him.
Not a great place to put your priority, but yeah, go on.
Yeah. You never know. You don't know what's going to happen with him going forward, but again, there's a lot of room to be fixed.
Yes.
But with Guardians, if they do end up moving forward, it's going to be with someone else entirely. And again, with Marvel's track record recently, with just bringing in people who have no understanding, appreciation, or experience in writing these characters, again, in a way, you should probably treat this as the last good Guardians film or the last good space cosmic film.
In my eyes, this is the last Guardians film.
Mm.
I don't want any more Guardians. Like you said, that's a very good idea. Just have it its own thing.
Mm.
It gives the characters room to grow as well, because if you just call them the Guardians of the Galaxy, it's just in people's nature to kind of expect Guardians again.
Yeah, it's kind of like in Ant-Man 3, where they have the villain, the goddamn stupid villain MODOK, basically try and do a heel turn face for the good guys, and he goes, at least I'm an Avenger now. It's like, what does that even mean anymore?
Yeah,
because the original Avengers was that team.
Yeah.
You can't just make it like an honorary title now. It's just it makes it so diluted now.
Yeah, it is making like the Avengers a weird thing, like more of a cult, a super cult than it is like a team.
Yeah, whereas with the Guardians, just let them be the Guardians.
Yeah, let the Guardians be the Guardians. Let the Avengers be the Avengers. If you want to do a new thing, make a new thing. Like you tried to do with the Eternals, but do it better.
Yeah. And yeah, I think overall, with how this film goes, there's a lot of promise for certain characters. Whether they're written good or not, we'll have to see for the future. And hopefully, considering this film is being well received, last I checked, the film, people were saying the film might underperform. I have no idea what's going on with the financial side of it right now, and I'm not going to even bother to look, because as far as I'm aware, the film was worth it. I walked into that movie expecting it to be bad, considering Marvel's track record recently. I was pleasantly surprised, and it was a worthwhile movie experience. And I got to say, thank you again for joining me with that one, Liln. Because,
no worries, we've seen every Guardians film together.
Yeah, honestly, we've seen every Marvel film together since 2012.
Yeah, we've gone to the cinema each time for them.
Yeah, and it's been great. And that alone is like an achievement of itself. And thank you so much for being on that journey with me too.
No worries, my pleasure, Kobi.
And yeah, this has been a worthwhile movie. So if it's still in the cinemas in your area, please go and check it out.
Do watch it. Do yourself a favour. If not, wait until it comes out and watch it then.
Yeah, and then watch it again and again, because it is good. And sometimes that's all you need, especially after so much in life. You just need a good film to distract you for a while. Guardians of the Galaxy is definitely a worthwhile experience.
Yeah.